Yeah, dealing with food's the $1,000,000 question. I mean, our environment's changed. Food's available at gas stations, at drugstores, places where traditionally there wasn't held any foods. We're always looking at it. It's in gift shops. And so really, it gets into your eating environment. Do you eat at the table? Do you eat away from distractions so that you're more mindful about what you eat? And then the quality of your food, too. So there's lots of different diets out there. Some work, some don't. But we know we have our food groups. It used to be in a pyramid. Now it's in a plate form. But really looking at the quality of whole foods. So my message to people is usually getting back to the basics. If you know that it grew on a tree or in the ground, or you can identify the animal it came from, it's going to be a better bet than the foods that are transformed into nuggets or cold cuts or hot dogs. Usually those are foods that we see that are more processed, and the foods we get that are convenient.
Gotcha.
And so really, if you tie it all, it kind of comes full circle that whenever you get away from cooking at home, getting away from packing our lunches, you kind of lose some of that ability to get whole, intact foods. So to me, I say, go for your eggs. You can't go wrong with plants. The less refining, the better. So even though some people say carbs aren't good, the beans, the quinoas, the whole grains that still have all their good fiber, which is very heart healthy, those should really be the staples of your diet. We live in a very busy world, and we always overschedule ourselves, so convenience foods, there is a place for those. But knowing that the frozen veggies minus the cheese sauce are better than the frozen veggies with the cheese sauce.
Gotcha.
And getting the frozen veggies is better than the frozen potatoes. So just making those choices day to day as you're looking for convenience is helpful. And I mean, fast food restaurants, Morgan Spurlock did Supersize Me a long time ago, where he gained all that pound weight from 30 days at McDonald's. But another study came out where people used the healthy foods at McDonald's and didn't gain any weight in 30 days. The person actually lost weight because they were paying more attention to eating the oatmeal and eating the apple slices and eating the grilled chicken sandwiches, which just shows you that it's not necessarily eating out, it's the choices that we make.
Right. Which I love the new concept of putting calories on the drive-through windows now. Because even McDonald's, and I noticed Chick-fil-A.
That's right, Panera does it.
Yeah, so you can kind of see, I thought the chicken salad would be better for me than a fried chicken sandwich, but truthfully I could save 300 calories by having that chicken sandwich instead of the chicken salad sandwich. So I think being conscious of that for me, I mean, the last 2 weeks, it's like practically 2 out of 3 meals have been on the road.
It's hard.
It's really hard. Subway's my friend. And just trying to go in there and pick a salad instead of eating the bread and the ham and the the salty foods, because I tend to retain that.
Yeah, and women tend to do that too, especially different times during the month. And like you pointed out, knowing your restaurants, knowing where you're going, planning in advance. We like to be social. We like to go out and do things, but if you can get on Facebook for 5 minutes, you can get on a restaurant's website for 5 minutes
find out what you need
and look
to
at that
do,
menu so you can kind of strategize what you're going to order. Because half of good nutrition and even exercise and fitness is having a plan. So if you're busy, don't schedule yourself to exercise on a night that that you meet with your girlfriends for a book club.
Yeah.
The book club will win.
Yes.
So put your exercise on a night that you're not doing anything, and take that appointment as seriously as a meeting.
And what is the saying? Fail to plan to fail. I think that's where I really went wrong after the rotator cuff. Is I stopped being prepared. I stopped having a protein bar in my purse. I stopped having that shake I could just add water to that was full of fruit and so. Isn't it true that your heart benefits from a healthy diet and exercise is almost immediate? I mean, can't you literally change your triglycerides and all those things within weeks of changing your eating habits and exercising?
It happens pretty quickly. I mean, you mentioned triglycerides. Triglycerides are a fat in the heart or in the bloodstream, but it's really driven by alcohol and sugar more than it is dietary fat.
Wow.
So if you know that you have a sweet tooth and your triglycerides are high, and you say you follow a low-fat diet, but you have a handful of jelly beans, handful of Hershey Kisses, cup of sweet tea, that can drive your triglycerides as much as a fatty meal. And yes, that can turn around relatively quickly.
So alcohol is as damaging to the triglycerides as sugar?
Excessively? I mean, it's got to be excessive.
Yeah, well, I mean...
So yeah, it can be if you do it excessively. Now, there's some heart benefit in having a glass of red wine, which is 5 ounces. So always keeping that into perspective. For women, 1 cocktail or 1 glass of wine is a serving for men, it's 2. There's some heart protective benefit from that. But they always say if you're not already drinking, don't start. You know, if you're already drinking, keep it moderate, because if you exceed that one
Gotcha.
serving or 2 servings, that's when you get into some higher mortality risk as well.
Is there another thing that you can do to give yourself the same benefit as that glass of, or that 5-ounce serving that's as healthy for you as that red wine? Or
You know, from my understanding, you might want to check this. I can check it for you. The resveratrol in the grapes is what makes the red wine so healthy.
wow,
And so grapes can offer the same cardioprotective benefit as the red wine. You could also say grape juice, because again, it's got that pigment, it's got the from the grapes, but make sure it's 100% and keep your serving size around 4
Yeah.
ounces.
cool. I never knew that, and no one has ever told me in all the times that I've interviewed dietitians or exercise physiologists or any of those groups has ever said if you're not drinking, don't start.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard that. I think that'll be great to include in this article.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, you know, I even bought a bottle of red wine one time after I talked to a heart doctor, and I was like, I'm going to have I don't like to drink, ever. It just sits on me. It makes me feel
Sure.
worse. You know, I don't know. It's just my body.
You have to know yourself.
Chemistry,
Yeah, some people just don't like to, and some people
Yeah.
have religious reasons why they don't.
Right.
And so, which is why each person's so different. Yes, there's some protective benefit in that food, but taken to excess, it's also harmful. So if you're not doing it, it's okay not to start.
Which is interesting, too, because a number of alcoholics who have heart issues who don't have a weight problem, but yet they have an alcohol problem, that have a heart attack or have heart disease and things like that. So that's interesting. I think that'll be nice to include. What would you say to our reader who is sedentary or maybe late 30s, early 40s, and just starting to have some issues that they've never had before, who've always kind of not taken that part of their health serious?
Sure.
What advice would you give, or how should they approach trying to, like you said, think about what's going on now instead of waiting until I've seen 50, 60-year-old men and women who are in better shape than some of